All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the deeply fascinating psychological mechanics of exactly why we stay stuck in life. We're going to be looking at some seriously brilliant source material that pretty much dismantles everything we thought we knew about human motivation, stagnation, and personal growth. If you're the kind of person who loves getting to the root of human behavior, well, you're in the exact right place. We're going to break down exactly why moving forward feels so impossibly hard sometimes, and much more importantly, how to actually break free. Look, have you ever watched someone repeat the exact same life-ruining mistakes over and over despite endless advice and just wondered, what is really going on in their head? You can give them all the advice in the world. Life can hand them a dozen second chances, and yet they stayed exactly the same. It is incredibly frustrating to watch, and let's be honest, it's even more frustrating when we realize we're doing it to ourselves. So why does this happen? What is literally keeping us locked in these repetitive cycles? Society loves to just write this off as laziness, right? Or maybe a low IQ. We just label people as unmotivated and move on. But our source material reveals a much deeper, completely neurological reality. Our brain is literally addicted to familiarity. It's not that we aren't smart enough to know what's good for us. It's that our brains are hardwired to crave what is known, even if what is known is actively destroying us. We don't actually choose what's best for us. We default to what feels comfortable. We call this the familiarity trap. And honestly, it is one of the absolute most dangerous psychological pits you can fall into. It's this weird state where comfort creates an illusion of safety that just slowly erodes your future. And the phrase comfortable suffering is key here. I know, it sounds like a total oxymoron, doesn't it? But to your brain, a predictable misery is vastly preferred over an unpredictable joy. Your brain prioritizes safety above all else, and to your brain, safety simply means, hey, I have survived this before. And this perfectly explains why people stay locked for decades in toxic relationships or dead-end jobs, unhealthy habits, you name it. From the outside looking in, the solution is glaringly obvious. Just leave. Just quit. But internally, change feels deeply, terrifyingly uncertain, while the suffering feels warmly familiar. We know exactly how that argument with a toxic partner is going to play out. We know the exact rhythm of that dead-end job. Stepping outside of that means stepping into the absolute void. So the real kicker here is that you aren't fighting reality. You are fighting your own neurological programming. Your brain literally prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. Let that sink in for a second. When you try to start a new healthy routine and you feel that massive wave of resistance, it's not a sign that you're making a mistake. It is your biology throwing an absolute tantrum because you are dragging it away from its familiar pain. You are quite literally fighting the survival mechanics of your own mind. All right. Moving on to Section 1, Behavior Becoming Identity, and the scary shift from habit to self. The source material drops this genuinely terrifying realization. Repetition slowly becomes identity. Think about your daily routines for a second. Those tiny excuses you make to skip a workout, the familiar negative self-talk, the daily routine of putting things off. When you do it for a week, okay, it's just an action. But when you do it for years, it literally becomes the architectural framework of your entire self-image. Over time, there's this massive psychological shift. People stop acknowledging the behavior as just some external habit, like saying, oh, I have a habit of hitting snooze, and they start believing it is fundamentally who they are. They say, I'm just not a morning person. This is the exact moment the trap clamps shut. You've taken an external behavior and internalized it into your soul. And once a behavior is part of your identity, well, the rules of the game completely change. And why is that so dangerous? Because the second a behavior becomes your identity, your brain starts perceiving any attempt at change as a literal threat to your existence. If you believe I am a procrastinator and then you try to do something proactive, your brain hits the panic button. It screams, wait, this isn't us. We are procrastinators. If we do this, who even are we? Your brain defends your self-identity with the exact same ferocity that it would defend you from a physical predator. Which explains exactly why real transformation feels so deeply, deeply uncomfortable. It actually requires destroying an old, safe version of yourself to create a better one. The crazy irony is that the discomfort you feel is literal proof that progress is happening. But what do most of us do? We bail the exact moment that discomfort appears. We interpret that psychological pain of ego death as a sign to turn back to safety, completely missing the fact that this discomfort is the exact toll you have to pay for a new life. Okay, let's get into Section 2, the emotion of procrastination, and why tomorrow always feels easier. We have got to completely reframe how we look at putting things off. Procrastination, it is not a time management problem at all. It is entirely an emotional problem. We aren't failing to manage our calendars, folks. We are failing to manage our negative feelings. When you avoid a task, you aren't avoiding the time it takes to do it. You are avoiding the anxiety, the boredom, or the fear of failure that the task triggers. We basically keep hitting the pause button on our lives because tomorrow just feels easier than today, you know? We deliberately delay taking actions that could dramatically improve our lives, just to dodge emotional discomfort in the present moment. We tell ourselves, oh, I'll have way more energy tomorrow, or next week is definitely a better time to start. It is a brilliant trick the brain plays. Tomorrow is this magical fantasy land where we have endless willpower and zero anxiety. But spoiler alert, tomorrow never actually arrives. You are just trading long-term fulfillment for short-term emotional relief. So, let's get to section 3, breaking the programming, moving from awareness to real transformation. First off, we have to swallow a pretty harsh truth from the source here. Awareness alone is just not enough. Knowing you have a problem and actually fixing it are two totally different realities. You can literally be the most self-aware person in the room. You can know all your triggers, understand your childhood traumas, and flawlessly explain why you self-sabotage. But if your behavior doesn't change, that awareness is completely useless. Real transformation follows this super strict, non-negotiable chain reaction. It goes like this. Step 1, your life only changes when your behavior changes. Step 2, that behavior only changes when your decisions change. And step 3, this is the big one, those decisions only change the exact moment you finally stop negotiating with your own excuses. You have to slam the door on the negotiation. You have to stop listening to your brain begging for familiar pain and just force a new decision through action. And this totally redefines what it actually takes to win. Successful people aren't necessarily smarter or naturally gifted or luckier than the rest of us. They just possess the sheer willingness to endure unfamiliar discomfort long enough to create a completely different life. They sit right there in the fire of doing things they don't want to do, feeling the total awkwardness of being a beginner, and they push through it until that unfamiliar growth slowly becomes their new, healthier baseline. Honestly, maybe the biggest takeaway from this whole explainer is this. Change isn't hard because of the physical effort. Sending an email, having a tough conversation, packing your gym bag. Physically, those are incredibly easy tasks. Change is hard because you have to let go of an identity that feels perfectly safe. To truly transform, you literally have to be willing to grieve and bury the older, smaller version of yourself. I want to leave you with this incredibly provocative final thought straight from our source. If this analysis opened your eyes today, if you saw yourself in any of these concepts, please don't just nod and ignore it, because awareness without action is just entertainment. Don't let this be just another piece of content you passively consume while staying stuck in that familiarity trap. So ask yourself, what familiar pain are you choosing today just to avoid the unfamiliar discomfort of becoming who you're actually meant to be? Think about it.